We now go above and beyond the headlines with the Interagency Task Force Spokesperson, Cabinet Secretary Karlo Nograles. Good evening, sir. Thank you for taking our call.
Good evening, Pia. Magandang gabi sa lahat na nanonood at nakikinig ngayon. Ngayong gabi.
Secretary Karlo, well, 10 days to go before April 30th, but can you give us first an assessment of how things have gone with this ECQ?
Well, we're looking at very good numbers. So the ECQ appears to be working in terms of slowing down the number of cases, deaths, and increase of recovery. So right now, we're looking at cases and deaths being less than doubling every 3 days. Kasi ang tinitingnan natin, yung kailan ba nagdo-doubling. So merong 3 days, may 7 days, di ba? So right now, we're looking at the graphs and it seems like the cases and deaths have a doubling of less than... so it's less than double every 3 days na. So it really appears that the ECQ and this this is something that is experienced also in all other countries and jurisdictions na nagkakaroon ng lockdown, so to speak, that they're seeing a slowing down of cases and mas nagkakaroon ng control in terms of controlling the number of cases and then obviously deaths and managing the curve and flattening the curve so that it doesn't hit yung peak na overwhelm yung ating health capacity. So that goes the same with the Philippines. And so right now, ang discussion ng IATF was what to do after April 30. Now that we're seeing slowdown in the number of cases, and we're now seeing better numbers in terms of recovery and fewer deaths.
So exactly, Sec Karlo, because the numbers are quite good in this first ECQ. A lot of people have been saying that perhaps it is going to be the correct thing to do if we just extend it, modified if needed, but certainly to extend it, and definitely not just to lift it, just to lift the lockdown and then everybody and everything goes back to normal. So the question here is, what is the IATF leaning towards? Is it a lifting completely of on April 30th, or are we going to be very cautious about this and do a modified or retain the ECQ as is today? Because like you said, the numbers are quite good now.
Well, to tell you honestly, Pia, hindi namin natapos yung aming discussions kanina because there's just too many things that we have to look at. But the President wanted to meet with several of the members ng IATF to find out exactly where we are right now. So ang napag-agrihan lang ng IATF kanina was number one, yung framework that we're using. So that is the same framework and presentation that members of the IATF will be presenting to the President later. But if you ask us if we've already finalized yung recommendation namin to the President, there is no final recommendation, although there are several options that the team will be presenting to him later on if they're not already presenting it to him right now. Then it's really up to the President what he wants to do with those set of recommendations. So we're also waiting. We're awaiting word from Malacanang if the President will take it upon himself to decide based on the options that are being presented to him right now, or he can give it back to the IATF for further discussion. So kami sa IATF, we're ready for whatever decision the President will make ultimately. So there are several options on the table, and we're looking at we're looking at it geographically, meaning to say on a per province basis. We can see what the numbers are. We can show the president what the numbers are, what areas are critical in terms of what's in the red zone, what's in the yellow zone, what's in the green zone. We can show also the president the industries that we are recommending to that may open, and we can show the president what sort of workforce um, we can allow for those industries that we will allow to operate. And we can also show the president what sort of transportation options we have as far as getting to work is concerned. No, so we have
So,
those
Sec Carlo, in
options
a
on
way, this is
hand,
like,
and we the team is ready to show that to the president if they're not showing it to him right now. Then it's really up to the president to decide if he's going to take option A, option B, option C, option D, or a mix of it, or say, okay, sige, IETF studied further and maybe come up with uh, with your recommendation. So inaabangan din namin.
okay, so in a way, we can describe this as some sort of a modified ECQ, but it sounds like, and correct me if I'm wrong, the option of lifting the ECQ in totality, the entire thing, and then everyone goes back to normal, is that off the table for sure?
Well, right now, ang naka-ECQ naman talaga is the entire Luzon, right? But several provinces
Yeah.
have imposed their own sort of community quarantine regulations in their own locality. So there's also that option for us to define the parameters kung ano yung maaring gawin ng iba't ibang mga probinsya based on the numbers that we're seeing. So that's also another
Okay.
option.
Sec Carlo,
Uh,
okay. Oh,
but as
all
far
right.
as
Sec
Luzon is
Carlo, one last
concerned,
question na lang
we
po
already
because
have some recommendations for the president depending on the province's situation right now.
okay, Sec Carlo, just one last question. Whether or not, in whatever form the ECQ post April 30 takes, no, whether it is by province or, as you were saying, no, several options are on the table. Will the presence of soldiers backing up the Philippine National Police be something that we will see, whatever form this ECQ takes after April 30?
Well, right now, there are joint forces naman ng AFP and PNP that are helping each other enforce order, especially dun sa mga public areas right now. Like, for instance, sa mga public markets. So they put um, isang entry at isang exit lang. And then there are joint forces na who are enforcing the quarantine guidelines, no? Especially particularly in those areas. So I don't think it's something that is strange to see because obviously the PNP is already overstretched na rin right now. We have several PNP officials or officers, law enforcement agents of ours who already have acquired the COVID-19, got infected with COVID-19. So in terms of manpower, necessarily we need to rotate our manpower ng mga PNP personnel natin. So necessarily, the AFP has to come in also and provide additional manpower as well as far as enforcement is concerned. So I don't
All
think
right.
dapat mabahala ang ating mga kababayan
All right.
kung nakikita nila na may joint task groups yung ating mga PNP and AFP.
All right. Secretary Karlo Nograles, thank you very much for joining us this evening.